You don't always need the best monitor on the market. Sometimes you just want great value. But what does that look like? Hey, I'm Ben from Ratings.com. Today, we're taking a look at the Acer Nitro XV275K P5biipruzx. We bought this monitor ourselves from Best Buy for $499.99 USD and put it through our standardized test bench. It's a 27-inch 4K monitor with mini LED backlighting that replaces the popular Acer Nitro XV275K P3 from a few years ago. The newer model keeps many of the same features, like its 160Hz native refresh rate and HDMI 2.1 bandwidth, and adds a dual mode option that boosts the refresh rate with a lower resolution. So, is this new perk worth the upgrade? And does it still stand out as a solid gaming monitor that won't break the bank? Let's find out. But before we get into it, why not subscribe? It's free, and it really helps us out. Starting off, the monitor has a basic and straightforward design. It has a strip of RGB lighting on the back that helps complement your gaming setup. The tripod stand takes up a lot of space, but there's enough room between the feet to put your keyboard and mouse. It holds the screen well, and it's easy to adjust in a number of ways. While the monitor is well made, the buttons underneath the bottom bezel feel cheap, and the on-screen display is difficult to navigate. It takes time to adjust sliders and change settings, which is annoying if you're someone who likes to constantly adjust the screen settings. Plus, the buttons leave a mark on your fingers if you press too hard. The monitor offers a wide array of ports. There are your standard video connections with one DisplayPort and two HDMI 2.1 ports. It also has a small USB hub that includes a USB-C port with DisplayPort Alt mode and 90 watts of power delivery, so you can connect your laptop and charge it with one cable. It even has a KVM switch that allows you to use the same keyboard and mouse with two different computers. Moving on to the picture quality, it uses an IPS panel with a low native contrast ratio. Even though this monitor has a local dimming feature, you can't use it in SDR, so blacks look gray with SDR content. When HDR is enabled, local dimming turns on and automatically improves black levels, but it still has some issues. There's haloing around bright objects, which is disappointing for a monitor with this many zones. It's especially distracting with things like subtitles on dark scenes. There's also a bug with local dimming that prevents it from working properly when you first use HDR. The black levels rise, and the only way to fix this is by changing the picture mode from HDR to anything else and back to HDR. An easy fix, but just something to keep in mind if you constantly switch in and out of HDR. This mini LED local dimming helps get the monitor very bright in HDR. While most highlights pop, it dims small highlights against dark backgrounds, so scenes like star fields are lacking a bit of punch. It has good PQ EOTF tracking for the most part, but shadows and midtones are darker than they should be. It also has a slow roll-off before reaching its peak brightness because it's tone mapping, so it limits how bright highlights get. It's dimmer in SDR, mainly because you can't use the local dimming feature. That said, it still gets pretty bright, especially when you use the max brightness setting. It fights glare in most rooms, but reflections can get distracting if you have it in a sunny space. If you're going to use this monitor for work, you'll be happy to know that text looks sharp thanks to its 4K resolution. Of course, you need to be in its 4K mode to get the best text clarity, as it looks much worse in the 1080p mode. Besides that, the monitor comes with a dedicated sRGB mode. It locks colors well to the sRGB color space, but some are still undersaturated, like reds and yellows. It also has a cold color temperature, resulting in a blue tint, and the white balance and gamma are both off. Essentially, you need to calibrate the monitor if you're doing any sort of content creation and you care about proper color accuracy. On the plus side, the monitor displays a wide range of colors in sRGB and Adobe RGB color spaces once you calibrate it. This is partially thanks to the fact that it uses proper quantum dots to display these colors, as opposed to KSF phosphors that we see on other monitors. It also displays a wide range of colors in HDR. Whites and blues are a bit off in the DCI P3 and Rec 2020 color spaces, but it's not terribly inaccurate either. It displays bright colors well, but it struggles with darker colors, mainly due to its low contrast ratio. Besides the good picture quality, this monitor also has useful gaming features. It has a native 160Hz refresh rate with a 4K resolution. It also has a dual mode feature called DFR that boosts the refresh rate to 320Hz with a lower 1080p resolution. This gives it versatility for playing different types of games, like if you prefer detailed images in one game and high frame rates in another. It also supports all common VRR formats in the 1080p and 4K modes. If you're connecting over HDMI, your graphics card won't need to use display stream compression in either of the modes. However, it needs to use DSC for 4K signals over DisplayPort. The monitor has a setting to disable DSC if you prefer, but that limits the refresh rate to 60 Hz with 4K 8-bit signals. As for the actual gaming performance, the main advantage of using the 1080p 320Hz mode is that motion looks smoother at high refresh rates. For the most part, motion looks the same between the two modes at 160 Hz and below. However, low frame rate compensation kicks in at a higher frame rate in the 1080p mode. If you're using VRR and the frame rate drops down to 60 FPS, the screen is actually refreshing at 120 Hz. This isn't the case in the 4K mode, where 60 FPS content actually refreshes at 60 Hz. Overall, it has a fairly consistent response time at any refresh rate, but there's still blur and some inverse ghosting behind fast-moving objects. There are 3 overdrive settings you can choose from, but you can only use these if you disable VRR. That said, using VRR performs like the normal setting at any refresh rate in the 1080p and 4K modes. Like any other display, there's persistence blur at 60 Hz, and the monitor unfortunately doesn't have a backlight strobing feature to fix this. Besides its good motion handling, it also offers a responsive feel thanks to its low input lag. It remains low at any refresh rate and in either of the dual modes, which helps if you play games that need fast reactions. It's also a good choice for console gaming because it supports almost any signal from a PS5 or Xbox. It just doesn't support Dolby Vision with an Xbox, but this is the case with most monitors anyways. So, with all that said, how does this monitor compare to the rest of the market? It's clear it's not the best out there. That title is reserved for OLEDs, which have far better picture quality and motion handling than this. Where this monitor stands out is value when comparing the cost to performance. It really punches above its weight compared to other models in its price range, especially when you can find it on sale. It's a jack-of-all-trades type of display because it's good for almost any type of usage. The productivity features and high resolution help if you want to connect your work laptop to it. It even offers the basic necessities if you also want to connect it to your gaming PC. The dual mode feature makes it versatile for playing different types of games. It's a clear gaming upgrade over the older P3 model, with lower input lag and the new dual mode feature. It isn't an upgrade in all areas though. The P5 actually takes a step back in terms of picture quality. Even though the newer model has double the dimming zones, it's actually less effective at improving the picture quality because it has more haloing around bright objects. Plus, it's disappointing that this local dimming feature only works in HDR, whereas you can turn it on and off as you wish with the older model. That said, because the older version is hard to find now, you won't exactly have a choice between the two models. If you do have the older monitor though, you may not want to upgrade unless you really need the dual mode of the newer monitor. If this Acer is too expensive for you, you can also check out the AOC Q27G3XMN, which is a 1440p mini LED display. It's lower end and costs less, but actually has better overall picture quality than the Acer. It has a higher native contrast ratio, and despite having less zones, the AOC's local dimming feature is better. Unlike the Acer, you can also turn it on and off as needed, including in SDR. Where the Acer has the advantage is gaming, mainly due to its dual mode feature. Its higher resolution makes games look more detailed, and its HDMI 2.1 bandwidth helps if you have a modern graphics card or console. The Acer also has those extra perks for work, so it's the better choice if you need something for both work and play. Of course, you're paying extra for that versatility compared to the AOC. Overall, the Acer XV275K P5 is a solid model that doesn't break the bank, but isn't exactly a budget monitor either. You get what you pay for: a USB hub, gaming features, and the mini LED backlighting that helps provide good enough picture quality. Sure, it's not the best implementation of local dimming that we've seen on a monitor, but it's not the worst either. If you're looking for a mid-range 4K monitor that's versatile for different uses and you don't want a premium model, you can't go wrong with it. That's all for our review of the Acer Nitro XV275K P5. If you want more details, check out our written review. The link is in the description below. Until next time, I'm Ben from Ratings.com, where we help you find the best products for your needs. Thanks for watching.